trusting your heart to anyone. You tell me you're gonna play it smart. We're through before we start, but I believe that we've only just begun. When it's this good, there's no saying no. I want you so I'm ready to go. Through the fire, to the limit, to the wall. For a chance to be with you, I'd gladly risk it all. Through the fire, through whatever come what may. For a chance at loving you, I take it all away. Right down to the wire, even through the fire. I know you're afraid of what you feel. You still need time to heal, and I can help if you're lonely. Let me try. You touched me and something in me knew what I could have with you. Now I'm not ready to kiss that dream goodbye. When it's this sweet, there's no saying no. I need you so I'm ready to go. Through the fire, to the limit, to the wall. For a chance to be with you, I'd gladly risk it all. Through the fire, through whatever come what may. For a chance at loving you, I take it all away. Right down through the wire, even through the fire.
I would like to start by saying that black people are not a monolith. There is no monochromatic way to be a black person. Therefore, not every black person is going to sound or talk the same, nor do they need to be valid as black people. Secondly, there's this thing called code switching. So yes, I might articulate my words in a manner that is more digestible to the audience that I am trying to reach, but who the fuck do you think you is telling me how I'm finna talk? How do you sound? Goofy as hell. Play with your mama, ho, don't play with me, bitch. First,
Right. I mean, I think like when Trump is like, well, that judge is against, that judge can't be trusted because he's Mexican and I'm building a wall. It's the exact same thing, right? To assume that all black people have the same perspective, to assume that, for example, police violence is the issue that black people care about. It's like, actually, black people really care a lot about crime because we're disproportionately victims of crime. It doesn't necessarily mean that we want like unfettered stop and frisk. We absolutely don't. But you get it coming and going on both sides of the coin. So I think like seeing black communities as whole communities with extraordinary diversity within them is absolutely essential in that representation, right? Like, I mean, I feel like so much of the national coverage is like, black voters want this, or Latino voters like only care about immigration, and it's just not true. You can ask any reporter or frankly any member of that community and they'll give you a different answer of like what's the issue that they care about the most. And I think the most important thing that we can do to fight racism is to not treat people as if they're a monolith and that their race determines.
They got a lot of shine that look like us.
Yeah.
Be able to write on a show and just show that we aren't a monolith. There are different levels to black community. We aren't all one thing. And it was great to even have like Tobias, Crondon, be the opposite side of
You know what I found interesting? You told Cameron, one of my producers, and this is going to stick with me, as it relates to black voters. We are not a monolith, but we are an algorithm. Explain that.
Yes, yes, black people are not a monolith, but we are an algorithm. There's a way to really reach us, surround sound across the internet, across social media, to really break into the feed, and to really break into the feed. And I think the Biden campaign, by launching this not just on TV, but across digital platforms, across social media, and again, getting out there early, often, and really showing up. So when people go online, when they go on social media, wherever they have that surround sound and really are getting this message, because that's really the problem the administration has had, is really breaking through so people actually hear and receive the message and know what the president and vice president have done for them.
But there,
she gets upset, then she thinks everybody's after her, like paranoid schizophrenic.
Tonight, Sonya Massey's mother heard on newly released 911 calls warning her daughter was having a mental breakdown.
And please don't send no combative policemen that are prejudiced, please.
Okay, well, that would be done of them, and they just do their job, okay?
I'm scared of the police. Please,
okay.
please.
There's nothing to be fearful of, ma'am.
The sheriff's office confirms that call came in one day before then Deputy Sean Grayson shot and killed Massey in her Springfield, Illinois home.
It sounds like Sonya's mom was trying to warn authorities, potentially warn your agency. How does that hit you now, knowing what happened?
Well, I haven't heard the tape. I'm certainly concerned. I want our deputies to have all the information they can before they arrive, and so I don't know why that wasn't transmitted.
Sangamon County Sheriff Jack Campbell releasing Grayson's personnel records showing 2 of his past employers said he needed more training. A third advised Grayson did not demonstrate good officer safety skills. The sheriff tonight says he put Grayson through 16 weeks of training, adding Grayson's previous employers, namely Logan County, never informed him of allegations of misconduct, including records show lying about a high-speed chase that violated department policy.
It's unfortunate. We needed the information, and it's a informal process, and it was not provided.
Logan County tonight not responding to our request for comment. Grayson's pleaded not guilty to charges related to Massey's death, his attorney declining to comment. Massey's family is calling on the sheriff who fired Grayson to resign.
Will you resign?
I will not resign. I understand the pain, that they're hurting, and they want to hold somebody accountable. We are holding somebody accountable. That is Sean Grayson. He did this. He alone did this.
Maggie Vespa, NBC News, Springfield, Illinois.
A king is born. I told you before. A king is born. Now I told you before. A king is born. Like a beast in the jungle, in the heat of the rumble, I ain't got nothing to lose. Hey, I've been fighting these hard times in the ghettos of my mind. Now it's victory that I choose. Hey, yes, my soul is blessed, the king is born. Mama, I confess I'm a bad, bad man. Ain't no one like me, I'm a legend. Ain't no one like me, I'm a legend, legend. 'Cause I've been down so long that my crown and gone is nothing. Ain't no one like me, I'm a legend, legend, legend. Like a bull in a glass house, no bull about to smash out. Can't nothing stand in my way. Hey, I don't care what the place is, from the penthouse to pavement, you better hear what I say. Hey, yeah. Yes, my soul is blessed, the king is born. Mama, I confess I'm a bad, bad man. Ain't no one like me, I'm a legend. Ain't no one like me, I'm a legend, legend. 'Cause I've been down so long that my crown and gone is nothing. Ain't no one like me, I'm a legend, legend, legend. King is born. Yeah, I told you before. Yeah. but I've never been broken. I told you before. I am the truth now, the truth has spoken. A king is born. Oh yeah, a king is born. Yeah. Oh yeah, ain't no one like me. I'm a legend. Ain't no one like me. I'm a legend, legend. 'Cause I've been down so long that my crown and throne is nothing. Ain't no one like me. I'm a legend, legend, legend. He is born.
Oh, hey everybody, welcome to Through the Fire podcast, and my name is TJ. Listen, right off the bat, we're going to get into this quick, fast, and in a hurry today. But before we get going, let me just give a good shout out to This Might Be Risky, because we're going to be looking at a live stream that they did, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about the live stream and in a little bit from This Might Be Risky. So I want to give a good shout out to This Might Be Risky, DJ Hamp over there at the This Might Be Risky YouTube channel. And I want to thank him for when I reached out to him and said, hey, I would like to chop up pieces of this stream. I need to use it for what I'm going to be talking about. And he was like, yo, go for it. No problem. Stop asking me. You can do whatever you want to. You can always use the content. But I still believe in asking people to use the content, especially because they put in so much work, hard work, and I think it's a sign of respect to do that. So thank you for This Might Be Risky. Also, a huge shout out to the Shots Fired podcast. Shots Fired podcast. I will be taking a look at them as well today, so I want to thank them too for the content that they use regarding the subject that we're dealing with today. So thank you again to DJ Hamp over at This Might Be Risky. Thank you again to Shots Fired podcast for the clips that we're going to be using today, and so hopefully this stream that I'm going to attempt to do right now is going to be at least get you guys to think a little bit about the subject that we're talking about today. Black monolith failure is what we're dealing with today. The black monolith failure. So I just want to start out by saying this. We as in black folk, we are not a monolith. But here's the question. Why do all black people have to think alike, have to vote alike, when we are not a monolith? It seems to me that in the last few years, black people, especially black men, are going out of our way to let the world know that we are not a monolith. And to be truthful, to be honest, to be transparent, every time I hear someone or I read a statement that someone has given that says we are not a monolith, every time I hear that, I'm not going to lie to you, I absolutely cringe. Here's the question that I have. Every time I hear that we are not a monolith, the question that runs through my mind is, what the hell are we running from? Quite frankly, for me, when I hear somebody go, black people, we are not a monolith. When I hear that, it's kind of like we're trying to seek the approval of Big Daddy. We want to seek the approval of Big Daddy by going out of our way to distance ourselves from each other. Now, a side note, yeah, there are some behaviors and there are some outcomes. There's some things that black people display that we definitely should put some distance between us and them. But this seems to be a deliberate and desperate attempt for blacks, especially black men, not to be associated with other black folk, no matter the issue. Excuse me. And we are really attempting. When I hear the overemphasis being used, the overemphasis of we are not a monolith in a debate or a discussion, when I hear that and I hear the overemphasis of it, what we're really saying is we are really attempting to send the message, I'm not like them. I'm not like them other niggas. I ain't no regular old nigga because I'm not a monolith. I ain't no regular old nigga. I'm special, Big Daddy. I'm special, Big Daddy. When I hear the overemphasis that we are not a monolith, it's giving, I'm special, Big Daddy.
I must remind you, Django is a free man. He cannot be treated like a slave. Within the bounds of good taste, he must be treated as an extension of myself.
Understood, Schultz. Bettina Sugar?
Yes,
Django isn't a slave. Django is a free man, you understand? You can't treat him like any of the other niggas around here because he ain't like any of the other niggas around here. You got it?
You want I should treat him like white folks?
No. That's not what I said.
Then I don't know what you want, Big Daddy.
Yes, I can see that. What's the name of that Peckerwood boy from town that works with the glass? His mama work over at the lumber yard.
Oh, you mean Jerry?
That's the boy's name, Jerry. You know Jerry, don't you, Sugar?
Yes, Big Daddy.
Well, that's it then. You just treat him like you would Jerry.
I'm special, Big Daddy. Django ain't no regular old nigga. I ain't no regular old nigga. We are not a monolith. Black folk are not a monolith. This phenomenon of we are not a monolith, this movement is disturbing, it's destructive, and it's dangerous for black folk to go out of their way to emphasize that we are not a monolith. The consequences of this, of having this kind of movement or having this, promoting this philosophy, the consequences of this can be tragic, not just for one of us, but for all of us. Declaring to the world on a consistent basis that we are not a monolith leaves every one of us on an individual level exposed to the whims of those who have a depraved heart. When the depraved heart knows because we are not a monolith, they understand there will be no consequences of their actions that come with having a depraved heart. Now, the sad truth about black people, the sad truth that we don't want to say out loud, the quiet part that a lot of us don't want to say out loud, the quiet part that a lot of us don't want to say out loud, is that we crave to be accepted by Big Daddy. So let the world understand we are not a monolith. Hold on to that point for a second. We are not a monolith. Hold on. Hold that for a second. I'm going to take us down a little bit of a side road, but then I'll just bear with me, but I'll circle us back to this. Hold on a second. I just thought about something. In the last 10, 15 years, there's been a shift in the thinking and the mobilization about black men. Black men historically have voted or aligned themselves with the liberal Democratic platform at around about an 85 to 92% clip. But over the last 15 years or so, especially this last 8 years, there's been some sort of exodus of black men from that platform to a more conservative leaning stance, or some would say a reverting back to. That's what some would say, a reverting back to. I can make the argument that in the last 4 years, like, things with black men in the conservative movement have reached a fever pitch for black men attempting to assimilate themselves into conservative spaces. Now, like, the phenomenon of conservative black men seeking to assimilate into predominantly white conservative movement, like the Tea Party and the Make America Great platform, the MAGA platform, is that's an issue that is absolutely exacerbating the divide between black men and black women. Now, I'm going to leave that debate about black men reverting back to or attempting to assimilate into white conservative spaces. I'm going to leave our argument if that's a good thing or a bad thing, or if that's what needs to be done for correction, or I'm going to leave that debate for later. In the coming weeks, I'll be having a discussion on the subject of why black men have decided that white conservatism is a place that we can pull up to and be embraced with open arms. I'm actually going to have that conversation. I need to explore why black men want Big Daddy's approval so bad, and why we think white conservatism is black conservatism. Maybe it is, but I'm gonna have that conversation on this channel, because that's very intriguing to me. The seemingly, like I stated, exodus of black men from the Democratic Party and them trying to assimilate into predominantly white conservative movements. I find that fascinating. But like I was saying, this trend, we are not a monolith. This trend is driven by I believe a combination of factors, including like an ideological alignment. I think a lot of black men perceive that there's some benefits of affiliating with the white conservative movement. And I think there's a desire for a lot of black men to really have some robust political influence within that framework. So while predominantly white conservatives espouses like some of the values that black men have, black men seemingly are finding white conservatism very, very appealing. And I believe one of the primary reasons some black men have gravitated toward the conservative movement, like the Tea Party or the MAGA Party or the MAGA movement, is because many black men often hold, I guess, what is considered very conservative values that resonate with the principles espoused by white conservatism, such as like limited government. A lot of brothers, think about, when they think about limited government, they think about, the first thing they think about is the child support system and how a lot of people are being screwed over in the child support system. Free market capitalism, so a lot of brothers are, all about their money now. The financial freedom and independence has really taken a grip hold on the black culture, that money has turned into our new god to a degree. I guess I heard a few things about like national defense and stuff like that. And then, but primarily though, we hear a lot of conversations in the white conservative movement about traditional values, traditional social values. And a lot of black men believe that their traditional values are the same as white conservative traditional values. And I don't necessarily think that's the same. But I'm gonna save that actual nuanced conversation for a different stream in a few weeks, because we gotta have that conversation why black men are so like there's so many black men, especially here on YouTube, that are championing the white conservative. I'm a conservative. I'm a conservative. Why they're championing and why they're lining up behind them when there's a possibility that white conservatism and black conservatism are not the same. They're not aligned, and they are probably diametrically opposed to one another. I don't know. We're going to have that. We're going to take a good look at that conversation. But a lot of black men, for some reason, they're doing their damnedest to assimilate into that culture. Let me give you a few examples. Herman Cain, God bless the dead, as DJ Hemp says. Herman Cain, it was a prominent black conservative and a former, he ran for president at one point and was a strong advocate for the financial or fiscal conservative talking points of the Tea Party. Talked about lower taxes, but I believe it was for like lower taxes for rich people, deregulation, which helps his business. And he really, I guess, aligned with the core principles of the Tea Party movement. Herman Cain rose up very quickly as a symbol, as a symbol or a mascot for the Tea Party. And they held him out as, see, we are we're not just a white leaning party, but we like the blacks too. But like I was saying, Herman Cain's rise within the Tea Party was very emblematic of how black conservative men who align with these values or the values of white conservatism, they thought that they found a platform within these movements or an acceptance or a platform that would accept them in these movements. And despite the predominantly white base of the Tea Party or the MAGA movement, Herman Cain's advocacy for conservative principles seemingly allowed him to gain significant support within the Tea Party movement itself. He wasn't really that active with MAGA, but he was really, really active with the Tea Party movement, especially during his presidential run. And even though, like, Herman Cain's race put him at odds a lot of times with the majority of black folks, Herman Cain's attitude was very simple. Not all black people are a monolith. That was his thought process, and other factors that drive black men to want to assimilate into the white conservative movement is the belief in the economic and the social mobility through the conservative party, which is a little bit confusing to me, because you really don't associate the conservative party with social mobility. That's just not something that I would associate with the conservative party in relation to black people in their relationship with the white dominant conservative party. But many black conservative men argue that the policies promoted by movements like the Tea Party and the Make America Great Again movement, such as like tax cuts and deregulation, like I said earlier, they think that created opportunities for black men, especially they also believe that there would be economic advancement, which I don't know. I don't know, but Take, for example, I just thought about something. How about that goofy ass Tim Scott? You know, the Republican senator from South Carolina. You know, he's a primary example of this. You know, Scott is the only black Republican in the United States Senate. And he has consistently advocated to assimilate with the white conservative base based on economic policies, almost primarily, and arguing that these policies provided the best pathway for all Americans, especially black Americans, to reach some kind of parity with their white counterparts. And Tim Scott, to me, is just a sad, sad case, because each time he tried his best to ingratiate himself, especially within the MAGA movement, Donald Trump found a way to embarrass this man nationally, even by like walking by and wouldn't shake his hand, even though he introduced it. It just all kind of nonsense that Donald Trump would do to try to actually embarrass this man. And he would stand up there with this goofy smile on his face, clapping while he got humiliated with these within the white conservative, you know, space. But dancing clowns like God Bless the Dead, Herman Cain, and that Cosby character reject, Tim Scott, you know, they often tout the notion that black people, especially black men, are not all monoliths in order, and they do this in order to defend why they are aligned with the Tea Party or the fact that they have become a make America Great Again loyalist, and why they want to be a part of white conservatism. But Tim Scott's approach, to a degree, is rooted in the belief that the conservative economic policies can empower people to succeed, kind of much like how Herman Cain thought, you know. And one of the bases for the conservative party, one of the theories that they have is, or one of the beliefs that they have is that, you know, that we want to get as much government out of our life, which I kind of agree with that to a degree, but their positioning is very, very different from what aligns with black people. Their goals, their outcomes, very, very different. Their motivation is very, very different from us, you know. But he and other black conservatives often viewed that platform as the opposite platform, like the Democratic Party, as fostering dependency, which I guess can be appealing to black men who prioritize those that prioritize like economic advancement and the views and the views of these policies also for them means achievement. So, you know, but remember, we are not a monolith. Black conservatives joining these movements is also a strategic decision aimed at gaining political influence and visibility. At least that's what they believe. And for them, by aligning with a powerful and influential movement like the Make America Great movement, a lot of black male conservatives think that they can elevate their platforms, and that their advocacy for issues that matter to them would gain respect within the conservative political movement, which I don't know, which for them is a strong motivator in messaging that we are not all a monolith has been seen as a winning message to gain acceptance by the white conservative. If you don't believe me that we are not a monolith mantra that is being touted, all you got to do is look at Dr. Ben Carson and what he decided to do and how he decided to align himself during the Trump administration. Dr. Ben Carson, a world-renowned, walking, talking, living, breathing Black history fact, a ultra talented genius of a neurosurgeon, was not tapped to be the United States Surgeon General. No. He was tapped to be the Secretary of the Housing and Urban Development Department under Donald Trump. He was tapped to be the head of HUD, the Section 8 agency. That's what they thought about Dr. Ben Carson. Now he wasn't good enough to be this genius and groundbreaking and courageous and talented Black man could not be elevated to the United States top medical doctor. No, we couldn't have that. We had to put that nigga, the head of HUD, the head of HUD, not a match at all. But because he felt, in my opinion, that we are not a monolith, that mantra, that was a winning strategy to ingratiate himself. But for many of us, Black folk who watched Ben Carson during that time, this was for us, this was I would think, what is the word I want to, I'm trying to find the right words, that we saw this as a disrespect of what this man, not only what he has meant to the medical science, and not only what he meant to medical science, the medical world, but what he's meant for the image of Blacks at the highest level. They just was like, we don't care what you did. You are not, we cannot have you as the world surgeons general, even though you are this walking, talking, breathing, current day, pioneer. We can't have you, as the top medical doctor in the country. No, we can't have that. But here, go sit over here and be HUD. Dr. Ben Carson's "We Are Not a Monolith" messaging led to involvement in the MAGA platform and allowed him to, and what he was hoping that it would allow him to influence policies over there at HUD, but his role at the HUD, it was such a mismatch that he was an abject failure within the HUD. But to his credit, he's only one of about 3 people who actually survived the entire Trump administration, because Trump ran through so many people, wasn't even funny, at the various heads of the various agencies and departments within the federal government. But Dr. Ben Carson was one of the people who actually was in his role the entire Trump administration, which was remarkable. But but his role over there, man, it was embarrassing. Dr. Ben Carson, watching him there, it was embarrassing. Watching him testify about the various issues that were going on within HUD on Capitol Hill, it was embarrassing. It was cringeworthy. It was humiliating to watch this. But Dr. Ben Carson, we are not a monolith. That's what he was. That was his mindset. We are not a monolith. Let me say this. I know I'm kind of, not really liking the term or expressing my distaste for those who tout we are not a monolith as some means to separate themselves. But let me say this. A group, there's nothing wrong with a group that take pride in not being a monolith. There's nothing wrong with a group want to celebrate or want to make sure that people understand that within the context of the group, that there is diversity of thought, that there's individuality and that there's a range of perspectives. There's nothing wrong with that. But this mindset emphasizes that not every member of the group thinks, acts, or believes the same way, which can be empowering on an individual level who wishes to assert a unique identity. But in a society often stereotypes and oversimplifies and marginalize communities, the rejection of a monolith thinking can be a form of resistance against uniformity, but in a way to highlight, I guess to a degree, highlight the rich complexities within the group. But you got to be careful. For instance, the phrase "we are not a monolith" is often mostly used by black men in the black community to reject stereotypes that paint all black people with a broad brush. I understand as a black man why we don't want to be lumped in or just made us, or there may assumptions be made about us. I understand that. However, while understanding and celebrating the diversity within our group, within our diaspora, it can also be complicated, to address all of the collective issues. So when a group is deeply divided by differences in opinion, like black folk are, and black men are, the priority of it can be challenging to mobilize around a common cause. We are already a deeply divided group, and black men and black women, we are already a deeply divided group. We're very fragmented. And to sit there and tout and to overemphasize and to try to assimilate into another group by preaching this nonsense that we are not a monolith, that can dilute black folks' social and political influence, and it can make it, and it also can make things a little bit harder for us to be taken seriously. The question is, shouldn't there be some things, some issues, some stances, some offenses that we are definitely a monolith on? Why is there such a recent movement to overemphasize that we are not a monolith? Now, I'm not the most overly religious person in the world, but I do have a little bit of biblical knowledge, and based on my upbringing in the Bible, we can see examples of importance why not embracing the notion that we are not a monolith might not be the best path forward. For example, 1 Corinthians, 1st chapter, 10th verse, and it said, Paul urges the Corinthians to be united, saying, I appeal to you, brothers and sisters, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree with one another in what you say, in that there be no division among you, but that you be perfectly united in mind and thought. That verse, even though it doesn't specifically speak to being a monolith or not being a monolith, but you can really associate that with that there is power, and there is strength, and there is progress in things where you need to be a monolith, where you need to be. And it also talks about, to a degree, you can actually, there's other verses in the Bible that can actually be associated with what happens if you are not a monolith on certain issues, certain perspectives, certain ideals, certain notions. There's verses that can be associated with that, that can speak to specifically a downfall if you are not a monolith. Matthew chapter 12, verse 25, Jesus says, every kingdom divided against itself will be ruined, and every city or household divided against itself will not stand. So while we are out here talking about we are not a monolith, we are essentially telling the world we are a nation and a household divided against itself. And we will not stand, and we are not standing. Now, back to what I said at the beginning. I walked us all the way through this because I wanted to talk about the reaction that I seen on This Might Be Risky to the alleged murder of Sonya Massey. I gotta say alleged because the devil hasn't been convicted of her murder yet. When This Might Be Risky decided to break down the alleged murder of Sonya Massey, the shooting of Sonya Massey, for me, I sat there and watched a whole panel of men debate this, and I was horrified at pieces of that live stream that I saw. I was horrified at what I was hearing. And all I heard throughout throughout that whole entire, I watched a few hours of it because I think it was like almost a 5-hour stream, and I watched. And oh, by the way, there's a link to the stream in the description. But I watched that conversation for hours, and the one thing that screamed out the most was, we are not a monolith. And I sat there in absolute disappointment and horror as I saw these black men, we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 6 or 7 of them, debating this issue. And some of the men on there, their perspectives or the points or the things that they were trying to defend or espouse were absolutely horrifying. I mean, if we all saw the video, but yet watching different pieces of at different points in the live stream, watching these men essentially say, we are not a monolith. And it was at the detriment to the memory and to what happened to Sonya Massey. And part of me was like, I'm watching these guys in real time, and I'm like, they are actually making the case when black women sit up and say that black men don't protect us. These guys are making that case by the way that they are actually describing and discussing the issue surrounding the Sonya Massey case. Now, let me be fair, because we're gonna take a look at 2 clips. So let me be fair. Now, these clips, they're isolated, and if you want the full broader context, you need to go back and watch the entire stream. There were 2 cops up there. There was a cop. There was one particular cop that he got up there talking about, I need to know what was his mindset for why he, what was going through his mind that gave him and I'm paraphrasing, that made him make the decision that she was of such a threat that she needed to be eliminated. And I was horrified that he was sitting there talking about he can't make an assessment until he understands that man's mindset who executed her allegedly. Because I got to say allegedly and all this other crap because he hasn't been convicted of anything. But he, in my opinion, executed this woman in her home. And we got a black man, a black cop talking up there. I need to know his mindset. I need to know his mindset. And there were other things. I'm not going to keep describing these because we're going to take a look at these. I got two different video clips. One is that they were talking about the water, and there was another one talking about other crap. This is in all for me. Even though there were times where they were pointing out that this was absolutely wrong, but the feeling and the vibe and the undertone of these discussions were, we are not a monolith, which is dangerous and will continue to prevent us from these depraved-hearted individuals inside of these bureaucracies doing what they do to us, because we go out there and send the message that we are not a monolith, which means anybody with a depraved heart can do anything to any one of us and nothing will be done with it, because them niggas over there, they are not a monolith. My goodness. Let's take a look.
Didn't hear it. I'm part of everybody, right?
We're training coaches.
Yo.
Exactly.
DJ, man.
About the burner, CJ?
Yeah, yes, sir, yes, sir.
Yeah, he said, turn off the pot, remove the pot. I gotta see. We don't want the house burning down too.
No, yeah, I heard that part, but I don't know if he said turn off the pot or move the pot or turn off the burner.
Wait, so CJ, what is your sentiment? Are you saying that?
Yeah, I'm a little confused.
Her conduct got her pot?
For the most part, yes.
Do you hear? I'm going to roll that back one more time because I don't think everybody heard that. The question was to the guy in the corner in the white shirt at the top next to the brother in the hat with the gold thing around in the center of his hat, the dude right next to him, that's CJ. They were the host of the stream, DJ Hamp from This Might Be Risky, asked him, do you think this woman's conduct got her popped, got her killed? And this black man goes, yep. Let's play that again.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Didn't hear it. I'm part of everybody, right?
We're training coaches.
Yo.
Exactly.
DJ, man.
About the burner, CJ?
Yeah, yes, sir, yes, sir.
Yeah, he said, turn off the pot, remove the pot. I gotta see. We don't want the house burning down too.
No, yeah, I heard that part, but I don't know if he said turn off the pot or move the pot or turn off the burner.
Wait, so CJ, what is your sentiment? Are you saying that?
Yeah, I'm a little confused.
Her conduct got her pot?
For the most part, yes.
Hey,
yo, y'all have. I'm gonna keep watching, yo. Y'all have a good rest of the show.
I understand. I understand.
I can't do this.
Up, stay, bro. But come back and argue. Come back and argue the point. I mean, I don't mind debating somebody, or if I could be wrong. Like, I don't mind being wrong. But am I? Is the question. You saying yes, but you gotta prove it, bro.
Somebody want to talk to CJ? I want to finish this half a sandwich,
bro.
One of the officers did back away. The officer who didn't shoot his gun, he backed away first, and that's the whole reason why she was like, "What you backing up for?" And then he said, "Because you got that hot water," and that's when she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." So he was already. That's why he was back so far. He backed up when she grabbed the pot. Buddy didn't. From what I saw, Buddy didn't put his hand on the weapon. The one who did shoot, he didn't put his hand on his weapon until she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus."
So wait, are you with me or are you against me right now?
I'm against you all the way, 100%. Okay.
Well, the argument is kind of with me.
It's not.
My bad. Help me clarify. That
was a real wild statement. You said her behavior, air quote, her behavior justified her reason to be sent to Jesus. Did you really just say that?
Yes.
I'm still trying to
understand.
what action.
You know what? My guy Cellulite is on the panel. I'm gonna let him take care of it. I'm good.
If he was so scared, then he would have backed up. If it was a real threat, he would have backed up like the other officer did, but he didn't, did he?
I could kind of agree with that point.
So you got it.
So explain to me, so CJ, you said that her conduct got her popped?
Her behavior, for the most part. I said for the most part, you know, like maybe it could have been de-escalation. I'm trying to I'll give you what Diesel said about the de-escalation. Maybe they could have de-escalated a little better. I can't get the word out. But
I understand that, but which part got her popped?
Her behavior, the whole thing could have been handled.
What action? Let him get it out, y'all. Let him get it out.
Yo, stop letting them say that idiotic shit. That shit is dumb, dog. You're talking about somebody that got a mental disability possibly, dog. Come on now. What are we doing? What are we talking about? Fuck out of. A mental disability does not excuse what you do now.
No.
So you should.
Hold up, Big Sam.
Come on, man. You want because you got mental
Trust me when I say this. I got him. All right.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Do your thing.
We gonna help him paint himself up out this corner. So go ahead, CJ. You said that her conduct and her behavior got her popped. Go ahead.
Well, I think they asked for the ID multiple times. She could have gave them the ID. They would have been out of her hair. But all that extra shit, not giving the ID, running to the. They told her to go to the kitchen, so I can't put that on her.
Let me point out something right here. This fella stated if she would have gave up her ID, they wouldn't have popped her. That is crazy. That is crazy talk. That is some wicked work that man just did. First of all, when you are you have it in this country, you have state and federal constitutional rights. Believe it or not, a lot of people don't know that your state got a constitution too. You should learn your state constitution, but your federal constitution, which trumps it all. If you are not engaged in any articulable criminal activity, you are under no obligation to identify or produce identification. That is within that is the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution. You don't have to do that. Now, there are some state laws that might regulate that or might control that a little bit more specifically. But for the most part, most of the country is not a stop and ID state. Which means that you don't have to identify if you are not being charged, arrested for suspicion of a articulable crime. And this is dirty work for this man to be like, these police officers who she called for help. She called for help. And they walked into her house and they executed her. And this man is talking about all she needed to do was give her damn ID and she would still be alive. That is some crazy, wicked work that this brother is doing.
No, they did not tell her to go to the kitchen.
I thought they did. That's what everybody's argument is.
Wait.
Sir,
You gotta go back and you gotta watch the video. When he came into the house, he was talking to the girl. The other officer looked at him. He pointed and he said, "Check that out." That's why the other officer walked over there into the kitchen to look at the fire. He never told that girl, "Go turn that pot of water off." After he made wait, just listen. After he made mention about her ID, then she got up and said, "Well, let me go get my paperwork." He said, "What paperwork?" Then he was like, "Yeah, you might want to check that water." He didn't say turn the water off. He said, "Check that water." That's how she ended up in the kitchen. So stop right there. So now, at which point did her behavior get her popped? Go.
Well, you didn't really defeat my argument. I just said
I'm waiting on your argument.
Gave up the ID, and she would have gave up the ID from the beginning. They would have been out of her hair.
Okay, cool. So again, how does her behavior did she commit a crime? Let me answer this question. What is the requirements for giving up your ID? Are you supposed to give up your ID when the police ask for it?
Well, she called them to the scene for whatever altercation, whatever that she called them for the scene for. So I assume once she let him in the house, they ask for the ID. Common sense would be given the ID. They'll leave. Oh my God!
Okay, but you're talking about someone. You're talking about someone who has a mental health issue, which is indicated by even her own wristband when the police got there. Would you agree with me that all of this could have been over and done with when they say, "Have a good night, we'll leave now," before they entered the house? Yeah.
Oh, yes, sir. I agree with that too.
Okay, cool. So when they got in the house, they asked for her ID. She's already in the state, and they asked for her ID. You can see that
What
she's.
state? What do you mean?
Hold on, wait. She's a mental.
Can I ask you questions for clarification?
Yeah, she's a mental health. She's a mental health patient. When they was asking her for her ID, you can see her fidget around, going all over the place, reaching to the bag, all this, that, and the other. I get all of that. So
and they didn't really trip. Hold on, let me just interject.
Go ahead.
They didn't really trip when she was doing all that. They wasn't hostile. They didn't scream at her. They were and y'all was acting like shit. They were just being so hostile towards that woman. They was not.
All right, cool. So now she goes into the kitchen. You still haven't got to the part where her behavior.
This man just said that they were not hostile towards that woman. If you go back and watch the body cam footage, I'm not playing it for a reason. If you go back and watch the body cam footage, when the police officers approach the home and knock on the door, it takes her a few seconds to get to the door. The woman comes to the door. Sonya Massey comes to the door, and she's putting her robe on, and the cop at the door starts berating her because it took her 2 or 3 seconds too long to answer the door, and he starts berating her at the door. What took you so long to answer the door? Why didn't you come to the door right away? Go back and watch the video. And she's like, I needed to put some clothes on while she's still trying to put her robe and get herself together because it's late at night. This is a woman coming late at night, need to answer the door, and she's trying to be decent and not exposed to these fucking men who are coming to her door. And this cop, he talking about this cop wasn't rude to her. This right here, we are not a monolith. This is wicked behavior. This is a dirty piece of game that this brother is out here espousing, and he's not the only one. And the fact of the matter is that they got to have a whole conversation, a whole debate about if she threw the water, didn't throw the water, go get the water, not get the water. This is some wicked work. None of that has anything to do with the fact that this woman was executed in her home. That she appears to be executed in her home, in my opinion. She called for help. And unbeknownst to her, she called the devil to her house. And the devil did what the devil do, which is kill. This brother right here, this is a cold piece of game. This is a cold piece of game, boy.
Conduct got her popped. So we're going to move past the ID. Wait. We're going to move past the ID part. Now she's in the kitchen. She's by the pot of water. Go.
And then we all saw what happened. I don't know what you want.
No, we all didn't see what happened. Tell me what you saw.
I saw her pick up the water. They said something. They backed up. They say put the water down. She said I rebuke you I rebuke you, demons, or whatever she said. They started walking towards her. It looked like she threw the water towards them, and they shot her.
See, this is why you shouldn't speak on shit unless you have a full understanding of what the fuck you saw. So we're gonna go ahead and watch the video.
Everybody else is speaking on shit without a full understanding of what are you talking about?
Yeah, you saying dumb shit like, oh, her behavior got her popped.
We're gonna watch the
video. That's up to you. I think what you said is
So let me try to find the one that has her talking. Hold on. So let's get clarification right here. So she's on the couch, right? This is a good starting point. Yeah,
that's a good starting point. Yeah, because she's looking for the ID right now. Go ahead, you just push play.
And Will, you didn't even say hi to me. You didn't even say hi to anybody.
Oh, my bad, because I got hot when this nigga was up here saying that dumb shit. Hello,
I didn't say hi either. My bad. What's good, everybody?
Salute to y'all.
What's good, everybody? Hey, don't be mad at me.
I just came from roasting the nigga completely, but we're gonna get to this right now.
You didn't roast shit, bro. You just talking.
No, listen, I didn't roast you, but you can be next, my man. Just go ahead, relax.
Come on, y'all.
My bad.
Let's go.
Just 1 second, okay? Okay.
What's up?
I got some paperwork. Can you grab that Bible, please?
Yeah. Hey, I just need your name so we can get out of here. Was there any damage previous to your car?
Previous, yeah. It was.
Yeah, what was the damage?
A dent, I believe.
But what about windows?
Oh, it was something that happened earlier.
Okay, perfect. What is your last name? Should not think about your last name. You're not in trouble. I just need to text.
Massey.
Massey. What? You have an ID? That'd make things so much easier. I just need just driver's license will do, and then I'll get out of your hair.
I want to show y'all my paperwork.
I will. What paperwork?
I got some paperwork.
Well, just get your ID.
Well, let's get your ID first, and then
one task at a time here.
Okay.
Here, grab your ID for me.
Okay.
Your ID. One task at a time. So let's do an ID, and then you can dig around for your paperwork.
I don't know where my ID is.
You have that stack right there, maybe.
1 second.
Check on her.
Let me get this.
No, we don't need a fire while we're here.
Right. Let me see.
Pause.
Okay.
Now, did anybody hear him say, "Go turn the stove off"?
She said, "Check on the stove. We don't need a fire while we're here."
He pointed at the officer and said, "Check on the stove." There's 2 body cams. You got to look at both body cams. He looked at the officer and said, "Go check on the stove." She got up because she said, "I got to look for my paperwork." She went to the stove. He never told her, "Ma'am, go turn the stove off."
So he was talking to his mans.
Yeah, he was talking to his man.
Okay,
that's why
that's not CJ. That's not CJ's fault. That's more my fault. Because when I originally watched it, I misheard it. So that's on me.
I am sitting here at this moment while I'm watching them have this dialogue. Not right now, but when I watched it originally, when I was watching it live, I'm sitting here going, and I'm sitting in there, and I was sicker than a dog because I would have got up on the plan because this was so infuriating. I was sicker than a dog, and I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking to myself, what does this have to do with the fact that this woman was executed? Are we really for to sit there and analyze frame by frame by frame if the water was this and the water was that? Where in the context of that are you? I mean, I am listening to what they're saying, and what they're saying, there's nothing wrong. But the impression that I am getting from this discussion is that they're trying to find or trying to assess or assert or try to dig out or extract from the water if there may have been a justification for her to be, and I'm going to quote the cop, be shot in the fucking face. I'm sitting here listening to these guys break this down, analyze this, and even to a degree, somewhat go back and forth, frame by frame. If we were a monolith on this issue, we saw what we saw. Before this man actually executed her, he told her, "I will shoot you in your fucking face." And seconds later, he shot her in the fucking face. What is there to analyze from a communal standpoint? I'm not talking about the legalities of it. I'm not talking about what the defense may try to put up. I'm talking about as a community, as a collective. What is there to debate? She didn't attack this man. She called for service. She called for help. Her mother warned them. If you remember at the beginning of my stream, her mother warned them about their concern about sending a racist, thug, demon cop to her daughter's house because she suffered from mental health issues. And what showed up at the door? The devil showed up at her door. And I even, on this stream, there were men who went back and started what I would perceive to be is blaming her for her death because she did not have a man in the house. If she would have had a man in the house, none of this would have happened because he would have went out there and he would have went and investigated. If she had the entirety, the collective of this discussion, while there was good salient points, but what it was, the way it was landing, all it said was, we are not a monolith. And including the fact that we had black cops up there trying to jigsaw this into a square, this jigsaw puzzle into a perfect square. No, if we were a monolith on this issue, none of this stuff would matter. We saw what we saw. This woman was thought there was a prowler or something happening outside of her house. She was concerned. She called the police for them to investigate, for them to help. She was the person calling for help. They showed up on the scene and executed her. All because the man got offended by her saying, because he the one that said, when they told her to go when they said the pot, there's water boiling on the stove, and she went over there and she went to remove the pot from the stove, he was like, don't you throw that water on me. She said, I rebuke you, because, and we all know what that means. That means you are tripping. I wouldn't do that. And you don't put that demon spirit on me like I'm going to just do some harm to you. And that's what he was, the devil showed up at her door. The Grim Reaper. He was the Grim Reaper. And these are the conversations that we are having. And these men are giving, they're very much giving, we are not a monolith. And the message that they're sending, not only are they sending to the community, because this is out on Facebook for the world to see, but I can only imagine what the women in the comment sections, what they were thinking. There was one woman on the panel, and you could hear Callie Bev, her name was Callie Bev. You could hear the absolute frustration in her and in her speaking. She was flabbergasted at the notion that these dudes were even debating this. You can hear it in her tone. We are not a monolith. And that mindset makes us unsafe. And not just women, all of us.
I gotta check out, but I gotta say this real quick. There is no justification. Let's say, like I said, let's say she had mental health. That's not a justification of her behavior for her to get popped. If that's the case, then I gotta look at everybody with mental health issues saying, okay, because of your behavior, you deserve to get shot at. That is a terrible reason on why anybody should load a gun and point it at somebody with mental health and use that. That is a terrible argument. I do not agree with CJ, and I won't agree with CJ respectfully.
That's not my argument.
But peace to the panel. You guys have a blessed day. I got to head to the airport.
Easy, bro.
That wasn't my argument, Hank.
You want me to play the video? Or you want to clarify your argument?
No, play the video.
Huh? Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I was rebuking you in the name of Jesus.
Huh?
You in the name of
You better fucking not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your fucking face.
Was what she said a threat? That's for anybody to answer. Was what she said a threat? I rebuke in the name of Jesus. Was that a threat?
If you come towards me with a boiling hot water,
Did she move? No. See, that's the problem right there. Did she move?
Once he said, I mean,
bro, drop that off the fucking panel, bro. Goddamn. Did she?
Look at, there's a woman in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. Watch her nonverbals.
Well,
let me
video. I mean, like, stop saying if she would have. What did she do in the video, bro? Like, you're trying to make it something different.
And the guy that's talking, he's a police officer.
Well, CJ, let me ask you a question. We'll play the video, and it's important to listen.
The guy in the hat with the gold circle, he's a cop.
What was said, CJ? If that lady was coming at you with a pot of water, and I was coming at you with nothing at all, what's more of a threat?
That lady with that water,
nigga.
Boiling hot water. Wait, y'all talking about boiling? Y'all talking about water?
No, I wanted to understand you. I just want to understand how you see it.
Are y'all talking about boiling hot water compared to you, Hap? I'm a boxer. I'm not worried about you. No offense, Hamp, you my boy, but I'm fighting.
I got you.
Feel me? I'm not worried. I'm worried about fucking hot water fucking up my skin. Are y'all crazy?
Absolutely. So hot water
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Makes sense. Do we need to see the rest? I guess.
Yes, play because there's a very key point that a lot of people missed in this.
Where she threw up her hands. Is that point you talking about?
No, not just where she threw up her hands. Okay. You don't have the second. This is not the second body cam footage, but you can go ahead. Yeah, you got the second body cam footage.
Yeah.
How many times we gotta watch to get shot?
But here's the thing, though. This is where people say. This is where people say she threw water at him. She did not throw water at him. Let us understand how bullets work and how bodies react to when they get shot. If you paid attention to the autopsy results, the bullet was, even though, what is his name, Officer Grayson? Even though Officer Grayson was definitely substantially taller than her, that bullet entered through her eye socket and came out through her neck, which means it came down at an angle, which means she was still on the floor. Now, not only that, if you pay attention to how she was holding the water, when she came up, you see the front of the pot tip downwards. Why? Because she got shot while she was still at a low angle. She didn't throw that pot of water. She got hit and the water tipped. She never threw the water at him. But I still pose the question: where does bodily damage outweigh life?
Royal will or whatever. Sorry. If that's the case, if that's the case, I will concede. I don't give a fuck about that white cop. I don't care.
It's not about giving a fuck about the white cop. It's the fact that it's something that unreasonable.
I can be wrong. If everything that you're saying is true, then charge the motherfucker with murder, and that's the end of the story. But if it's not true and what you're saying is not right, then I don't agree with you.
You can see it for yourself. Why do you gotta be based on what everybody else says? See it for yourself. When you watch this video, what does this video tell you?
I just told you.
We are not a monolith. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That her actions got her killed.
Pretty much.
You don't try to get him to change his mind?
No, I ain't trying to get him to change.
Her actions got her killed. We are not a monolith. That was just one exchange that happened over there. This might be risky. That disturbed the hell out of me while I was watching it. Here's hold on a second. Remove. Here's the other one, okay?
Now we done.
It's not checkmate. It's not checkmate. It's not checkmate. Stop. It's not checkmate, bro.
Peace, y'all. Peace, y'all. I said my piece, y'all. Y'all be easy, man.
All right, stop trying to think of an excuse. Stop trying to think of a comeback and just answer the goddamn question. Yes. Or no. It's the majority of. Okay, I'm glad you told that lie. Let's look it up. Go ahead. I got it. Go ahead.
Hey, look. Hey, real quick. What's up, man? How y'all feeling? So I got a question. Do y'all use the 1+ rule out there?
What is the 1+ rule?
In terms of what type of force you're able to use? Force plus 1? In terms of the level?
Yeah, we call it the force continuum, yes.
Okay. So in terms of this situation, let's just say if the pot was considered a weapon all the way across the room, what would be the next level of force or the appropriate level of force for that?
I mean that's a hard. You're asking me a very, very hard question when it comes down to the situation, right? Because force continuum. So we've already had this discussion. There was no de-escalation, right? Force continuum also suggests de-escalation, right? There was no de-escalation in the situation. So at that time, the continuum continued until that officer deemed a threat of great bodily harm or death, right? So if he felt like he was under great bodily harm, everything that comes before use of force, deadly force is out the window, right? So you like that's kind of a hard question to answer.
Right. I get that, right? But I'm just thinking forward in terms of like the trial, in terms of looking at the force continuum. I don't think anybody would look at that video, in law enforcement or in terms of the judicial system and say that there was that imminent threat. that warranted that. I guess which goes to your point in terms of there was no justification, right?
But see that is a problem because we go off of what somebody initiates. So the problem with that argument is you don't know that person's history. That person might have grown up with their parents.
This man said, we don't know the history, the personal history of the cop that executed, that seemingly executed, in my opinion, Sonya Massey. This is some more wild, wicked work. This is I'm going to say it again. This is a cold piece of game, what I'm hearing right here. What? None of that. And I know they're not saying, oh, it justifies, but why do I give a rat's ass about, you know, that his mommy didn't give him a lollipop on his 15th birthday or something like that? Or why do I need to, why is that even relevant to the fact of the matter is we got these men up here having this discussion, debating this thing, analyzing this in the way, in the manner that they are. I said, I know I'm going to stress this again. I took 2 clips out of a complete, almost 5-hour live stream. So go back. I mean, of course, I don't know if you got, but go back and watch this thing in segments. Even go back and watch the interviews with the police officers, and they're talking in their assessment, the 2 black police officers. This gentleman, there was another guy. He was a bald-headed guy. Go back and watch their assessments of that for yourself. But so I want to be fair that I know some of these clips are a little bit out of context to the whole discussion, but I'm just talking about the impression that I was getting while I was watching this live stream and how they were debating this. And the one thing that kept screaming out at me is that we are not a monolith, and how that attitude and how we are addressing and discussing these issues, how that actually continues to play a role in why and how things like what happened with Sonya Massey happens to us. This is crazy. This is a cold piece of game what these brothers are doing.
Parents scolding them with water. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that that's what happened. Please don't take it the wrong way. But what I'm saying is that is going to be brought up in the trial. Why did you feel like scalding hot water was something that you need to use deadly force on? And there could have been something in his past to make him feel that way. We can't go off of what you feel every single time. And that's why we get so mad in these situations, because we feel he shouldn't have done it. But at the time, his mental state might have been in the part what that brought him back to him being scalded with water before, and he didn't want to, you know what I'm saying? How much it.
Oh, okay. All right. So, you know, he may have been scalded with water as a little boy. So, okay. So, yeah, so it's perfectly logical that he would kill her. And he threatened to shoot her in the fucking face long before the water was
hurt and all that stuff, and he didn't want to go through that again. You know what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying, right? But do you think that in a jury trial, the jury would side more with that being unreasonable? Whatever you just said? Right. Let's just say I get what you're saying, right? But if let's say we're the jury, I don't think there's any way that we would say, you know what, this man may have had some type of traumatic situation in his past, and that made him then pull out his pistol and delete her. You know what I'm saying? I know what you're saying.
But it's not a major. It did happen. It would come out. But when it comes to a jury trial, I never rely on a jury trial. That's nice, man. That's so much of a crap. That's literally 50-50. It could go either way, depending on what the defense does and how they articulate everything. Like I said, all of the evidence has not come out yet. There is no defense yet. We don't know what the
all of the evidence hasn't come out yet. We watched them in the entire interaction from the time that they pulled up at the house to the time they entered the house to the time that they were asking for her ID. They were being belligerent with her. They were asking for her ID. Did they mention the water on the pot? To him, her going over there, then him saying, "You bet not throw out of nowhere. You bet not throw the water on me." Like there was no indication that was anything that was going to happen. And then the next thing you know, I would shoot you in your fucking face. And then seconds later, he shot her in the face. What evidence? what evidence? This just, I hear what he's saying. I hear the words that he's saying. I understand what the words are trying to convey. But when you put that in the broader context of actually what happened with this woman, this is giving, we are not a monolith. And we are not, and there are certain things, and if I to quote the young people, there are certain things that you need to stand on business, and none of these brothers are standing on business. And the man that's talking in the black hat with the gold circle, that is a cop, and this man is talking like a fucking piece of trash cop.
Defense is saying at this time, so we don't. I have no idea how this is going to work out in a trial, and I don't never want to answer that, because I've been through plenty of trials where I thought I had more than enough evidence and they were found not guilty, right? So it all depends on who's on that trial. If the person in the trial has ever been scalded by hot water, that will throw the whole case. That's going to throw the whole case, because you need all 12. Just one person.
If that's the case, then the prosecution would eliminate them if they found it out that they were scalded, right? They would eliminate them as a juror. They wouldn't even make it that far.
Who's the state of
This conversation is wild to me. I'm like, how do we get here? This is wild. Now we're going to the jury, somebody on the jury being scalded. We're not to the cop being scalded as a child. Just these wild ass assertions, and what the hell this is crazy talk to me. This is embarrassing. This is and this is shameful. This is shameful.
Find that out in the pretrial.
You can ask that. You can ask that during voir dire.
I would ask. You can ask, yes, but who will say they will find that out though? That's what I'm saying. There's no guarantee we'll find that out.
Yeah, that's true. But you can ask it during voir dire. I think even so, Sean, you only get a certain amount of people you can eliminate. So depending on, so this would be a jury of 12. I think you can eliminate 8, like strike. You can strike 8. I think
it's 16 in the M1 case.
Yeah, because like 50 people you picking from, right? Something like that. Yeah. So Sean, there's still a possibility that somebody can get up there, because you can't strike every. You know what I mean? All of them. So.
Right. All right, and also Diesel. So have you been in situations as an officer where you're called out to places, and constituents are mad, cursing people out, cursing officers out, saying fuck the city, everybody, and at no point did the city officials, including the officers, show any aggression? You've been in those situations, right?
Right.
So just for background, so I work with the city government, and I'm in those situations every week, and I hear these white people say the wildest shit y'all would ever hear. And what you said, Diesel, was what you said about the nature of the call. The reason that they were out there wasn't even that type of call.
Right.
So why on earth would that be their posture? Why on earth would that be part of your language? Let me tell you something. I can't explain to y'all how often we get sued as a city. I can't explain that to y'all. I can't tell you how much of your taxpayer dollars goes out of the window, and it's settled most of the time. I mean, 90-some% of the time we fucking settle. It ain't even going to court. So either way, there's going to be a civil suit, and y'all taxpayers dollars in that city is going to pay for that shit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, like, no matter what, this nigga did some wild shit, and there's going to be a price to pay for that shit.
Damn, that's actually a good point, Sean. Damn. Okay. Freezy, let me read these a few, Freezy, and then you can jump in.
So I just, oh boy, I just gave you 2 clips that we spent a good amount of time talking. Maybe you guys have a different, maybe I am off. Maybe I'm off on my assessment or what I'm picking up or what I'm giving or whatever. But this shit screams, I am not a monolith. But I'm not trying to be like inflammatory right now. But I actually found a group of white men talking about this case. and their tone and their posturing and their analysis and what they decided to focus on was completely different than the brothers. And so I'm going to play, and shockingly, the three white men at the table are law enforcement. They're law enforcement officers. And I found their perspective, how they talked about that, and what and their underlying messaging. They were all on the same page, in my opinion. So I want to contrast. I want to compare and contrast. Well, I want to let you see how these white men talked about this incident versus how these brothers were talking about this incident. And I don't think they were the same. Maybe I'm wrong. When you see it, tell me I'm wrong. Shout out to the Shots Fired podcast. That's the white boys. Maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'm meddling, or maybe I'm being too unfair to the brothers. I don't know. I don't know. You guys tell me what you guys think about that, but you got to watch this. Maybe I only watched it once, so maybe me watching the second time with you guys, maybe it'll hit me a little bit differently, but I don't know. So let's take a look at this. Hold on a second.
Enforcement training. I think it has a lot to do with some of the cases we're going to talk about, or this case today. We'll get into some of the training issues, but we'll head out to your agency and make it happen.
Nice. And I want to debunk something real quick, because sometimes when we go teach classes, we get asked bad shooting. We want to actually break down the laws, the tactics that were used, and in kind of an in-depth.
Now, by the way, on This Might Be Risky panel was two black cops. One was two former cops, two former black cops. So there were cops on This Might Be Risky. There were two brothers who were officers on there, law enforcement officers, police officers. These are police officers. I want to point that out.
Discussion about who this deputy was that actually fired
me for serious misconduct. Had a history of the
incident.
Yeah, the deputy involved in this looked like he had a pretty troubled, history. And if you just look at sort of any major news source, they're talking about it. They filed immediately Freedom of Information Act requests on him, his personnel records, and they were able to get a ton of info. So they're saying he was discharged from the Army for serious misconduct. Had a history of driving under influence. I think I read something, maybe he had 2 convictions, for DUI. He had been disciplined from a previous agency for his decision making, right, under high stress incidents. Something about he's in a pursuit. Supervisor tells him to terminate the pursuit, and he doesn't, which is sort of what you got to do. Right?
We are only a few seconds in on this live stream, and there's one thing that stands out to me between the brothers and this white man, and between the brothers and this guy. The brothers, they were all focused on her behavior. These guys are focused on him, the son of a bitch who pulled the trigger, the son of a bitch who said, I'm going to shoot you in your fucking face, the son of a bitch when he came to the damn door and was berating her because she had to put a damn robe on so she didn't come to the door indecent. They were focused on him and his behavior and what was going. They were focused on him. The brothers on This Might Be Risky, they were focused on her. She was the victim. That is wild to me.
Right? You're a supervisor. I was a supervisor. And he continued on and was basically pursuing him with no lights and siren on, which is even more dangerous than just keeping your lights and sirens on and doing it. So he was, a couple personnel memos came out, and I think you can find them online, or certainly the synopsis of them, talking about where one of his supervisors was saying, this guy makes terrible decisions. How are you still employed with us, is what one supervisor remarked, which is pretty darn incredible. And they recommended he take all kinds of decision-making classes. Now, if you also publicly available now is his employment records, which showed that he worked at 5 previous agencies prior to the one he was at when the shooting occurred. It's not to say if you've worked at a variety of agencies, it's necessarily bad, right? We know people that I've worked at a few agencies. I worked at one agency and then lateraled, reapplied, I guess you would say, to a new agency. Fine if you want to make a change. However, given the context of the rest of this guy's behavior, it just kind of paints a picture of maybe somebody who has got some issues going on. We don't know the man, don't know what the issues are, but spending less than a year at a bunch of different agencies and getting kind of moving around to all this stuff just maybe speaks to a level of commitment, or, gee, maybe I got in trouble here, I'm going to go move over there. It really looks bad for these agencies as far as their hiring practices. Every one of those agencies, which is mentioned by name, in the press now, locally is under a microscope. Why did we hire this guy? Or these other agencies are going, man, we dodged a bullet by firing this dude or getting him to resign. Yeah. But the agency that did pick him up, where he was ultimately employed with when he was involved in the shooting, knew or should have known, about this guy's history. The last thing I would say just about him, just from some research and really just Googling this stuff, is there's a photo that's kind of going around that shows him. And if you kind of look a little deeper and find the whole booking photo where it's not cropped, you'll see his arms and he's got a bunch of tats on there. And before anyone in your audience freaks out, like, what's wrong with tats? There's nothing wrong with tats. But given the context, again, of what's going on, that is going to come up in court. Right? When he's involved in a shooting and you can see the forearms and see the tats that are on there. I'm looking at his booking photo right now. Maybe you can, splice that in or whatever. Dude's got skulls on his arm. Mm-hmm. There's nothing inherently wrong with putting skulls on your arm. Maybe you like a death metal band that's got that, or you got some good reason for doing that. But I can tell you, as cool as you think that is, when this goes to court and your picture is, this giant photograph of you in front of the court, it's not going to be that cool, and they're going to use it to show frame of mind. Right now, when you listen to this guy talk, I think he explains his frame of mind, and that's all you need to hear. But that's going to be used against him, as is all this other previous employment stuff. So that's kind of what I found looking at his background.
Yeah, I find it interesting. So being a supervisor, and I'm sure you've probably had the same experience, I think you have cops that are aggressive.
We're about 8 minutes into the clip. These guys ain't said a doggone thing yet about her behavior, her actions, her nothing. But the brothers on this might be risky. Debated her actions, her behaviors. Period. I don't care why they were doing it. They were doing it. They were focused on her. These brothers, this is a 30-minute clip. I'm not going to play all 30 minutes of this clip, but I'm going to play enough of it for you guys to see and try to see the difference between how the brothers were talking about what they decided to focus on versus what these white boys are focused on. And let me remind you one more time. I took two different parts of that stream, clips from two different parts of that stream. So go back and watch it, the full context. Now, I'm being honest. I pulled out two sections. There's about 5 or 6 of them that I wanted to pull out, but I pulled out 2. And for me, the reason why I didn't show you all the different versions of the clips, all the different clips from This Might Be Risky, is because the impression I was getting that from everyone, from every piece of the conversation. They had multiple topics around this, but I was getting the same impression no matter how they were talking, no matter what part of the case that they were discussing. I was getting the same impression from this. It didn't matter what they were talking about. They were focused on this woman's behavior. They were sitting there trying to analyze they were trying to find a way to but try to find a way to try to make this make sense. This doesn't make any sense. But when you have the mindset that we are not a monolith, we're in danger. And we had 2 cops on This Might Be Risky who could have broke down this stuff like these guys are breaking it down, who could have focused where it needed to be focused on, like these white boys are focusing on what they need to be focusing on, but they didn't. Why is that? Are we so thirsty to not be perceived as race loyal, or that we are perceived that we are not are we so thirsty for the attention and approval of Big Daddy that our primary positioning in Black society is to be, as men, as to be the protectors, the gatekeepers? Are we so thirsty that we're willing to, that we have just willingly abdicated that because we are not a monolith?
They're great street cops. But they operate a lot in the gray area. And I know you've worked with some where, you know, albeit they're out there maybe doing a good job, but they're pushing the envelope, operating in that gray area. And eventually, like case in point, his supervisor tells him to, you know, cancel his pursuit. He's still chasing the person with no lights and sirens, right? Because he just doesn't have it in him to stand down from that, right? He's chasing the rabbit. He wants to get the bad guy. And so I think that's ego driven. So when you have cops like that, I think it's so imperative that supervisors have to hold cops like that accountable so it doesn't spiral into something like this. And it will eventually, may not be as drastic as this, but it will turn into something where that cop is going to do something to either get himself severely in trouble and or a partner, and to include the supervisor. So I think that's worth noting. If you're a supervisor, you work with people like this who they're skirting that gray area all the time, I think you really got to pay attention to that and not just brush it off as, that's just kind of the guy that he is. It's important. I mean, have you worked with people like that?
Yeah. And I want to mention the multiple agencies that he worked for. You even said it's not necessarily that you're working at that many agencies, you're switching around. There are plenty of people that relocate, different opportunities, but all those were in such a short amount of time. I think it was since 2000. This is the 6th agency since the year 2020. I'm sorry, 2020.
Yeah, I was going to say 2000. No way.
Yeah, within 4 years, it's 6 agencies.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the part that's kind of triggering.
Red flags. And so, you know, I guess the question becomes, well, why did this agency pick him up? And for anybody that's not a cop who's watching this, to become a police officer, even if you're a cop and you want to lateral to another agency, you still have to go through the exact same background process that anybody else would have to go to. So these agencies would have had to have put him through this background process where they would have known about all these misconducts and write-ups and
these officers. So when that officer that seemingly executed, in my opinion, Sonya Massey, that the actual police chief said that there were pieces of his background that they did not know. These 3 police officers are saying, no, they absolutely know. So when they tell you, oh, we didn't know, or they left this information out, or they didn't, we were under the impression, they're lying. They're fucking lying. They're absolutely lying. They know. These are 3 cops. This is what they're saying. And none of the other 2 cops is rebuking what this man is saying about what these agents, these police agencies, these departments, what they know and the information that they get on these goddamn, these depraved heart individuals, these out of control, undisciplined, problem children that they get. They know.
DUIs and all those things before taking that problem on. So the excuse of, well, they didn't know about it. Again, I'm only saying this to people who aren't familiar with that. They would have had to have known about his prior conduct.
Yeah, but part of the hiring process too, though, we should point out is that they're known and they know about that information, but then that applicant, who is this deputy, is allowed to explain those situations. And those background investigators may believe that or think he's changed, he's done his punishment, and they think that portion of the problem is no longer there, and then they move on. Yeah. So it's not just like they knew about it, but they did it. There's an explanation process as well.
Yeah. And I think there's also a lack of standardization there, right? So one agency may have a very strict standards where they're like, we're not touching this guy because we don't know what other places he applied at. I bet if you really got into it, he's got applications in all over. Probably, and it's kind of like whoever said yes.
That's a good point.
Now this agency, I think I don't know if it's the last agency or one of the agencies in there said, well, yeah, we did know about some previous discipline, but had he explained it like he explained it to us at the time he was working for that agency, then it would have been okay. So kind of like to Mark's point, it's like we don't know how it was adjudicated. What did he say during the employment process? What specifically did he leave for? And agencies often to avoid a wrongful termination lawsuit will say, we're going to fire you, Kyle. Would you like to quit instead?
Yeah.
And that does the agency a favor because they avoid any part of wrongful termination because you can't come back and sue us because we didn't fire you, remember? But what it does is it kind of jams up everybody else because although maybe I'm going to use you, but the applicant was a bad cop, he resigned. He didn't get fired. He doesn't have any adverse employment stuff. So then he can go out and be a free agent and get hired again. But the city.
So these police departments are woefully complicit in these depraved heart individuals continually moving around. The departments are complicit in it. They give them the opportunity, instead of firing them, which goes on their record, which in law enforcement, that record actually matters. It goes on their record. It sends up a red flag that this person is a problem child. Instead of them doing that to these people and making it impossible for them to ever work in this place again, where they got the power to end your life or shoot you in the fucking face, these departments are complicit. They help move these people around and move them along. Oh, not my problem, not my problem, not my problem, but not your problem, but you are supposed to be able to identify a bad egg. This is why I don't think that there's no such thing as a few bad apples. I think the whole goddamn system, the whole goddamn industry is a bad apple. They're all rotten.
The first agency that wanted to fire him's like, sweet, we don't have to deal with this guy anymore. And the officers always say yes when the agencies make them that deal because why wouldn't you say yes? You're not going to be like, no, fire me.
Yeah, because you're ultimately going to get fired at the end of the investigation.
So that's how that happens. I mean, if people are wondering, like, why, how can this be? Well, it's complicated, but you got to think about it from the actual employment law stuff. And this happens in private industry too. It's just that's what, this is one of the reasons why people are able to bounce around like that.
Yeah, so, okay, let's talk about the tattoo thing real quick. Yeah. You brought it up. I guess I would ask both of you what your thoughts are on agencies allowing cops to show visible tattoos, or should they limit what those tattoos are? But then that's like a whole other issue.
I don't think they should be limiting showing your tattoos.
It's either all in or no.
Yeah, I'm okay with showing tattoos. I'm okay with like beards, different things like that, because the public wants law enforcement to represent their community.
Yeah, I'm a skip a little bit forward.
Seems super cool and rad, and you think you're so tough when you're doing that stuff. It looks, you're giving the prosecution, ammunition. Now, these people I mentioned, I'm not trying to defend them and give them a way out, like hide that stuff so you don't get prosecuted, because everyone I mentioned needed to be prosecuted. But for the good cops, for the regular dudes among us, it's like, just don't create problems where it doesn't need to be there. Or if you're going to do it, just look me in the eye and go, hey, I know how it's going to play out in court when I get into a shooting. I'm purposely screwing myself, and I'll be like, okay, dude, right on.
Yeah, this is an interesting career. If you're in law enforcement, those are all things you have to take into consideration. This is a job where you do have the lawful authority to take a person's life, and that is not taken lightly. And all these things that you do outside of work,
it is taken lightly. That's why they do it so often.
Post on social media, everything that you guys just talked about. No other job has to worry about that. So you got to take it into account.
Yeah.
So
let's get into it.
Let's talk about the video. So the deputies are called by Sonya Massey to her house for some type of, she thinks there's an intruder, or.
Now remember, with the brothers on This Might Be Risky, they conveniently leave out. They're talking about the cop at the end with the black hat and the gold star, talking about all the evidence isn't out. As you can see right here in the video, this is them approaching the house. You get to see everything that happened from the time that they approached the house to the time they executed her. So I don't know what he's talking about, what extra evidence.
Or a prowler at her house. We'll play the video footage for you guys. You can see that the deputies are on scene, clearing around her yard, and it's obviously late at night. And I want to make note that this type of call is, if you're a graveyard cop, this is a absolute routine nightly call for service that you're going to get. You may get people who hear animal noises or something on the side of their house and they think somebody might be breaking in. The wind might cause an issue, doors slamming. You know, people don't want to go outside and check their own properties if they believe somebody's out there. So, right. So that's why they call us. So this isn't like some out of the ordinary call for service for a graveyard cop to go to. They show up. It appears that they obviously realize that there's no intruder. No one tried to break into her house. The screens weren't taken off her windows. Nothing like that. They end up inside her house. They try to identify her, and we're going to break down the laws and all the legal aspects for you guys here in a minute. But it starts to go a little sideways when she's digging around in her purse. She's trying to find her ID, and all of a sudden, I think she starts making some comments or statements where I'm pretty sure the deputies start to realize that maybe she's got some mental health issues, things going on. And one of the deputies sees that she's boiling a pot of water in the kitchen and makes the comment, let's shut the stove off. We don't want to start a fire while we're here. She gets up, goes to turn the stove off. She then grabs the pot of boiling water, makes the statement to the deputies that she's going to rebuke them. And that's when the one deputy goes from 0 to 100, pulls his gun out, makes some threatening statements to her that he's going to shoot her in the face. And as this whole commotion is going on, she ducks down. It looks like maybe to put the boiling pot of water down. We don't know. He kind of approaches her to maybe get eyes on her as she goes under the counter, and then shots are fired. And he ultimately shoots her. There's a lot obviously to break down in this, but let's start with why they're in the house. The legalityness of identifying her. Should they have recognized the mental health issues and immediately left, and I say we just like take it from there, because everything after that point is where everything started to go bad.
Yeah. And so I looked up their law, their deadly force law in Illinois, and it's really interesting. It's a copy and paste of California's new use of force law that came out in 2020. And I've noticed that when I train across the country, cops from other states are always like, "Oh, you guys in California, you got your hands full out there with all those restrictive laws." And so I would just say for folks in the audience, like, if you're a cop in another state other than California, like, be advised, this stuff can be coming to your state. It happened in Illinois. It's happened in Washington, I think it was. So I'm reading from Illinois' Combined Statutes, Section 7.5, which is their use of force law. And maybe as we're talking about stuff, I'm just going to pull out pieces of this law and be like, hey, says it right here kind of thing. And starting right there, it
notice that they are talking about the responsibility of the cop. Everything they're talking about is the responsibility of the person who has the authority to take a life, who has the highest duty to make sure that there's a good outcome. Notice that they're putting the responsibility where it needs to be, as opposed to what was happening on This Might Be Risky. Think about that for a minute. But we are not a monolith. The black men should have been the group that should have been talking about this from the perspective of the responsibility of the law enforcement. They're about to break out the laws. They're about to break out the law for Illinois for this jurisdiction. They're talking about the person who has the authority under the cover law to take a life at a moment's notice. They're talking about them and their responsibility and what they have a duty to do and what guides them, not her and her behavior and what she could have done. They're like the fella from This Might Be Risky talking about her behavior caused her own death. These cops at no point have said that, alluded to that, or even circled anywhere around that. What the hell is going on with black men? We are not a monolith. That's more important than morality. That's more important than you than being on the right side. Get the fuck out of here.
Literally says that agencies are encouraged to adopt policies designed to protect individuals with physical, mental health, developmental, or intellectual disabilities or individuals who are significantly more likely to experience greater levels of physical force during interactions, as these disabilities may affect their ability of a person to understand or comply with commands from police officers. So just backing up, if you remember in the video when he's on the doorstep, she says something to the effect of like, oh, I'm kind of not doing okay, or I'm doing okay, or I'm getting the help I need. And he picks up on very clearly, like, are you sure you're okay? Do you need some help? You know, there's no way you can say he wasn't keyed up on the fact that this is probably somebody with a physical, mental health, developmental, intellectual, you know, one of those issues. The lawmakers have put it in the law in the state saying when you see these things, you have to know, you knew or should have known, that's the term they'll use in court, you knew or should have known that this person could have difficulty complying or understanding commands. So fast forwarding, anything that happens after that, you're put on notice by, even if it wasn't in the law, just sort of common sense. Like, this isn't going to just be a normal conversation I'd have with someone who doesn't have some mental health struggles.
No one is really yet saying that this man had a depraved heart. And that's what this was. But this conversation is very different than the conversation on This Might Be Risky YouTube channel. This is a very different conversation, especially with the fact that This Might Be Risky had 2 fucking black law enforcement officers on his screen. I did not bring the clip up with the first one, but I had the second one on there. But I'm telling you guys, neither one of these police officers had, because they were the experts, this is the kind of analysis that they should have been given on This Might Be Risky. But, you know, let's not forget, we are not a monolith.
And we'll get into, you know, is it smart when you think someone's got boiling water over there to tell a mentally ill person, go grab that water? We'll get into that. But I think, to your point, he knew, right? And it's very obvious this person had some mental health struggles right from the get-go.
Okay, so legally, can the officers identify her being on call? Yes, they can. I mean, they can ask her for her ID. They most certainly can do that. And she's being compliant with them. She's trying to give them her ID. And then she starts to make more and more comments where I think, you know, things start to kind of go from, okay, something's not right here. To your point, the officer does ask her, go turn the stove off or whatever, because we don't want to start a fire in here. And you're right. Like, before we even started recording, you were like, well, that's like telling somebody who's mentally ill, you know, go grab those knives and go put them somewhere else, because we don't want those to be a factor in this call we're dealing with right now. That's just not a smart decision to do. He could have done it himself. But at what point do you think, I'll ask both of you, but what point do you guys think that, okay, things aren't going well, they know there's no intruder, there's no crime that has occurred at this point? Should they have just left?
My opinion is, yeah. And I keep keying in on, why would somebody, like, why do you want them to turn the water off? The boiling water, why do you want them to turn it off? You're getting you're IDing them and then you're leaving. Like, do you plan on being there longer? That just, there's no real discussion on it. It's just intriguing. Like, why would you have someone turn the water off if you're just getting their ID and you're leaving?
Yeah, great point. You know, when you're outside of our house, you can, the only way we can go inside someone's house is with consent, warrant, exigency, maybe a probation or parole clause. They ask for consent, they're allowed to go in. Absolutely. Can you then ask to the person for identification for my report, which is what he said. I need your information for my report. Yeah, you can ask her. She's under no legal obligation to provide that, but she seems to be getting it. Now she's digging around in her purse. She's saying, well, I'm going to show you some documents and all that kind of stuff. So right there, I mean, you know, this is someone who's got some mental issues. How far are you going to take it to try to get that name? Not very far is probably the issue, right? But she's sort of compliant, and she's saying that. I like what Mark just said, though. It's like, why do we need the water off? What happens if boiling water continues to boil? It's not like a pot of...
Okay. I just want to give you guys, you know, something to compare what was happening with the black men and how they were discussing it, and then how the white men were discussing this. There were night and day. There were night and day. And This Might Be Risky. I'm going to keep saying this. They had 2 police officers on the panel. I don't have an expectation, I guess, for the non-law enforcement people to be having a discussion. They can kind of go left and kind of and have the tone that it had. But they had two fucking cops up there who could have did what these cops did. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they did the exact same thing. I don't know. Go back and look and figure it out. Or did they do the same thing? This is crazy. For me, in my opinion, this whole "we are not a monolith" mindset is reckless. It's reckless. And it, for me, to a degree, it makes it seem like we are willingly abdicating our responsibility as black men and of our little black nation in this country. That we have abdicated our responsibility, and maybe our women are right about us. Look, the mindset of not acting as a monolith can have some implications for our safety, you know, particularly when it comes to issues of protection and advocacy, like what was needed with Sonya Massey. If a community is divided because we are not a monolith, we can struggle to present a unified front against external threats, like how law enforcement engages with us. Most of them when it comes to us, they have a depraved heart. Not being a monolith on certain issues is leaving us more vulnerable to exploitation, discrimination, and even murderous violence. You know, the song, what's the name? The song "All Right" by Kendrick Lamar. You know, that's a song that, to a degree, is an anthem for resilience, and it reflected kind of on the needs for collective solidarity. What about Jay-Z? Jay-Z's "The Story of OJ." You know, that one addressed, the complexities of Black identity and the importance of financial empowerment, emphasizing that despite individual differences, there are some common things that need to be addressed collectively. Jay-Z understand that there are certain things that we absolutely need to be a monolith on. What about Joey Badass? Remember his song "The Land of Free"? The land of the free. You know, Joey Badass, like, he critiques the ongoing struggle for the issues that we have in this country. You know, how about J. Cole's "Middle Child"? You know, how that reflects on the responsibility of bridging generational divides and creating unity within our cultural context. There are people out here who understand that there are certain issues, certain situations, we absolutely need to be a monolith, and we need to stop pretending like we don't, because we want to assimilate, because we want to curry favor for Big Daddy. Throughout our history, the Black community has seen the effects of what happens when you are a monolith, and now we're living through the effects of all of these Negroes pushing that we are not a monolith. Just go back to the civil rights, movement. I'm going to talk about a couple ladies like Ella Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer, and they understood the importance of being what being a monolith meant. Baker, who played a key role in she was a part of the NAACP and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. I think that's the name of it. And she was also part of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee movement, I think, for the NAACP. What about Fannie Lou Hamer? She was like a key, she was like very active in Mississippi, in the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. And Fannie Lou Hamer was really famous for the slogan, or coined the slogan that we use today, which is, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, which helped galvanize and had us move as a monolith to deal with the issues of the time. Both of these ladies recognize that and I use ladies, the two ladies in this, because the person that we talking about, Sonya Massey, is a black woman. Both of these black women recognize that individual voices are important, but when you want to actually move a system, you need to be a damn monolith. A monolith. Keep saying left. But you need to be a monolith. These ladies work tirelessly to bring people together, to understand that being a monolith was essential to changing and challenging the entrenched, hard systems that were weaponized against our people. There's nothing wrong with us being a monolith on certain issues and standing on that. When we act as a monolith is when we get progress. According to a study done by Dawson and Bobo in 2009, the black community's political power the only time it's strong is when we act as a cohesive unit, meaning the only time we are politically strong is when we are a monolith. When black men take a softer or less assertive stance on issues that affect black people and black people, for black women, let me make this perfectly clear. You are part of black people. So when black men take a softer or less assertive stance on issues that affect black people, black men, black women, black children, when black men take a softer and less assertive stance, it continues to deepen the divide between black men and black women. And this is not just about individual cases of violence or injustice. It's about the broader message that is sent when a community does not rally together to defend and protect its most vulnerable members of our community. And there's nothing more vulnerable than a woman who lives in a house by her damn self, especially with children. A woman in a house by her damn self cannot protect herself. I don't give excuse me. I don't give a damn if she has a gun or not. She's ill-equipped to do so. When we responded to the deaths of women like Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, Antonia Jefferson, Deborah Danner, Corinne Gaines, the fact of the matter is that when these women lost their lives, there didn't seem to be as much outrage as there needed to be. There didn't seem to be much mobilization because, we are not a monolith. That messaging communicated the lack of urgency or importance, and it further, and especially many black men being silent on those ladies, and it further helped alienate black men from black women, because we are not a monolith. When Breonna Taylor's death in 2020 became a national issue, but the initial response to her death was slow, quiet, and unremarkable. And it wasn't as prolonged. And Breonna Taylor was innocent. Well, I wouldn't say innocent because she did have a boyfriend that was a piece of. Anyways, but George Floyd, that was a global response. The Breonna Taylor, the Cohen Gaines, the Deborah Danners, the Sandra Blands, the Antonia Jeffersons, all should have got the same response as George Floyd. And if black men were actually on their purpose, on their spot, in their position, and not trying to figure out a way to not be viewed as a monolith, maybe it would have been a step towards our women feeling like they're more valued. Now, I think that they feel the way they feel. I don't completely think that they feel that they're completely justified in feeling the way that they feel, because they are responsible for some of the behaviors and the choices that they make that actually leave them open. They actually make decisions that leave them wide open. But there are things that we can do as men to kind of shorten that excuse list. Sandra Bland, she died in police custody under mysterious circumstances. Antonia Jefferson, she was shot in her own home by a police officer in 2019 that did not and it did not receive any remotely any level of the national attention that the others did, despite what happened to her. Deborah Danner's case. She was an elderly black woman with a known history of mental illness, and she was shot and killed by a police officer in 2016 after an encounter that should have been handled with care and compassion, and the lack of outcry for this woman's death. The insufficient support that these black women receive, even from within our own community, because we got too many black men out here who are too concerned with trying to impose onto the world. I don't know if that's the right phraseology, but we got too many black men out here who are trying to assimilate into white conservative spaces, that they are too concerned with being labeled as a monolith. What about Corinne Gaines? She had mental health issues. She was killed by police. When we do not move on certain issues as a monolith to address issues that could have an impact on all of us, not just you on an individual. It can impact your daughter, your son, your niece, your nephew, your father, and as in terms of Deborah, your grandmother. There are things that we need to be a monolith on, but black men for right now seem to be hell-bent on pushing the narrative that we don't need to be a monolith, and God forbid that you tell them that they need to be. They'll fight you. They'll fight you quick, boy. They'll fight you quick. They won't fight that white boy though, but they'll fight you. Not acting as a monolith when we need to be leaves black people more vulnerable to mistreatment, because it dilutes the power of us collectively. When we are divided and fragmented as we are, I said it earlier, it becomes easier for those with depraved hearts to come in, exploit, and which can result in a very and less effective advocacy and higher likelihood of ongoing danger for everybody, including our children. But let's not forget we can't seem to do this because the thing that's more important to us right now is that we are not a monolith. AKA, I'm not those niggas.
A king is born. I told you before. A king is born. Now I told you before. A king is born. Oh yeah. Oh no 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 no. Like a beast in the jungle, in the heat of the rumble, I ain't got nothing to lose. Hey, I've been fighting these hard times in the ghettos of my mind. Now it's victory that I choose. Hey, yes, my soul is blessed, the king is born. Mama, I confess I'm a bad, bad man. Ain't no one like me. I'm a legend. Ain't no one like me. I'm a legend, legend. 'Cause I've been down so long that my crown is gone expecting. Ain't no one like me. I'm a legend, legend, legend. Like a bull in a glass house, no bull about to smash out. Can't nothing stand in my way. Hey, I don't care what the place is, from the penthouse to pavement. You better hear what I say. Hey, yeah. Yes, my soul is blessed, the king is born. Mama, I confess I'm a bad, bad man. Ain't no one like me. I'm a legend. Ain't no one like me. I'm a legend, legend. 'Cause I've been down so long that my crown is gone expecting. Ain't no one like me. I'm a legend, legend, legend. King is born. Yeah, I told you before. Yeah, a king is born. Been broke before, but I've never been broken. I told you before. I am the truth now, the truth has spoken.